This story is called Green Soul by LittleSquib0. Is that right? LittleSquib0, yeah. Unless that's an O.
I've heard that name before.
It's hard to tell with the font. I think this is the only...
Have you read anything?
No, I think this is the only...
fanfiction.net?
It's an older site for fanfiction.
I saw fanfiction.net before. I'd heard about AO3.
Are you on it?
I did too. Yeah, I usually post my stories on both. Anyway, this is Green
How
Soul
long is it?
by LittleSquib0. It is currently...
It's trying to get out, so we speak.
12 chapters.
Oh, 12 chapters.
Possibly.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Summary. The underground, kind to neither human or monster, where adventures await and so much more. Join our chirpy protagonist as she braves this new frontier of excitement and peril with nothing but her wits and a sprinkle of magic. Chapter 1. Everything hurt. It hurt in places I didn't even know existed. A twinge in the right shoulder blade, an ache in the spine, a dull throbbing in my hip. I guess I did know where it hurt. Wait, where was I? Unless I was going senile, which I most certainly wasn't, I didn't go to sleep in the middle of a flower bed? It certainly wasn't very comfortable. I was laying on my back, facing the light streaming from a hole a sizable distance above where I was lying down. The last thing I remember was exploring the mountain that the caretakers told stories about. A cursed mountain sealing an unspeakable evil. There were legends that those who climbed the mountain never returned. The whole 9 yards. But adults always make up stories about everything. Like how the nice, colorful truck that all the kids gathered around only plays music. Lies! The truck literally had a giant ice cream cone on it. So, I was just exploring the mountain and saw this humongous hole in the ground and went a little closer to see what was at the bottom. Things are starting to make a little more sense.
I think they can see what's at the bottom now.
Hello? I cried out to the cold, stuffy cavern. I received no reply besides my own lackluster greeting echoing off the walls. I decided to stand up and take inventory of my surroundings. I appeared to be in a cave. The sole patch of greenery around me was crinkling beneath my feet, feeding off the bright sunlight streaming from the ceiling.
You're not a little concerned or anything?
No.
Oh, I'm at the bottom of the hole. Cool.
That's fun.
Let's see if anyone else is down here too.
Well, you know, I guess you'd call for somebody, maybe first thing.
True.
The rest of the ground was composed of some sort of smooth gray rock, and so were the walls. I took a second glance at the bed of flowers I had landed on. 5-petaled yellow flowers, each one about as large as my hand. The ones you could find anywhere you went, grown by a florist, sprouting from the cement, hitchhiking on anyone who happened to brush the edge of a flower to spread its roots into every nook and cranny of the world. As the adults would say, where it can grow, it will overflow. There was lots of time for me to think about golden flowers later. I was now stuck in a hole. Think about your priorities, me. Get out of the hole before thinking about flowers. Looking around, there was only one path I could take. There was enough light for me to see the walls in all directions except for one. A dark and ominous hallway that stretched out to somewhere. I walked forwards with my arms stretched out, despite the hamster in my mind going, "What a smart idea, going down the spooky hallway. What a genius you are, Bee." Quite a rude hamster, considering that it was also the one that decided to go down the hallway in the first place. I walked forth with great valor, with nothing but the shirt on my back and jeans on my legs. Perfect for an expedition into the unknown. The hallway quickly came to an end. There was a door. "Woohoo! A door!" I exclaimed, as I reached what was most certainly not a door. 2 bone-white pillars holding up an arch with a strange symbol on it. An orb with 2 wings on either side, and 3 triangles pointing away from the orb below it. Passing under the arch, I entered a room with nothing interesting but a patch of grass illuminated by sunlight streaming from the ceiling, which was also the ground, because I was underground? Quite a confusing sentence. Certainly not one that many people had ever said before. Walking past the boring patch of grass sitting at the center of the room, another arch stood in front of me, with the same mysterious pillars that you would find in a Greek temple on either side, and the same winged circle symbol on the arch. This wasn't going to end well. I felt like I was about to intrude on some sort of ancient Indian burial ground and be cursed by vengeful spirits to die from some horrific means. But with no other way to get out of the hole I had dug myself into, pushing onwards was the only way. Passing under the arch, I immediately noticed the color of the room. Pink. Glaringly vivid shades of pink and purple bombarding me from all sides. Directly in front of me was a pile of crimson-red leaves, a staircase to the right and left, both intersecting 20 steps in and leading up to yet another room.
Did they count?
Apparently.
Just for accuracy?
Oh, I don't know.
Like their job.
That's the hard-hitting research that this author did, apparently.
Google room
To count the number of stairs. Apparently. There you go. That's dedication. Everything appeared to be falling apart by the seams. The walls had cracks dotting every inch. Vines were growing here and there. This was an entrance to something. I knew that for sure. And this something was hidden away in some cursed mountain, in some remote cave, below a death-defying drop. What was down here? Or more specifically, who? Chapter 2. With no other way forward, I went up the stairs and entered the next room. As soon as I entered the room, I was dismayed to see that there was a door in the way. Not an arch leading to another room, but a physical purple door with no handle. Giving a few hearty kicks led to nothing but the sound of a door being kicked. No surprise there.
Smart.
The only other things in the room were 6 pressure plates arranged in a 3x2 pattern, hot dog style, a lever, and a plaque. Walking up to get a closer look, the plaque read, "Hot dog style." 3x2 pattern, hot dog style.
Oh, so longer lengthwise than widthwise?
It would always be longer lengthwise if it's 3x2, no matter which way you put it.
Well, apparently that's hot dog style.
No, like if it's vertical versus horizontal. Like
Depends on which way you're...
it's vertical hot dog. But what
All right, well, we'll remember to
Google it.
We'll
Google
Google
hot
later.
dog
We will
style.
Google, yes, puzzle design hot dog style later. 3x2 pressure plate hot dog style.
We'll give us the result.
Walking up to get a closer look, the plaque read, "Only the fearless may proceed. Brave ones, foolish ones, both walk not the middle road." Was this a puzzle? Why was there a puzzle here? I would have expected traps, like darts shooting from the walls, spikes in the floor, house-sized boulders rolling every which way. But this? The phrase, "only the fearless may proceed," clearly meant I had to be fearless to continue. Brave people are fearless, and so are foolish people who rush headlong into danger. Stepping on the 2 plates to the left and the 2 plates to the right, a quick flip of the lever, and the door had opened. The next room was a hallway, with the path leading straight forward into a row of shiny spikes. There were rivers of flowing water coming from small crevices, with bridges laid out over them. Another puzzle. Walking around, I noticed 3 different levers. 2 of them had words written with yellow chalk beside them. "Please press this switch," was written beside the one on the very left. "Please press this switch too," was written beside the one on the middle, with nothing written on the last one. Weren't puzzles supposed to keep people out? What was the point if you were just given the answers? Flipping the 2 switches, I looked back to the spikes. They had receded into the ground. Was that it? Was someone helping me? After those 2 insultingly simple puzzles, I encountered something I once again did not expect. A training dummy. It looked to be made of cloth, a larger Hershey Kiss body with a long horse-like face, joined together by the stitches woven into its body, accentuated with two beady little eyes. It stood there menacingly, looking at me with their glossy button eyes. On the other side of the room, past this formidable foe, was the way forwards. Seeing no danger besides the strangely placed training dummy, I walked past the training dummy. At that moment, the outline of a luminescent lime-green heart shone in front of my chest, and my heart popped out? Ah! Go back! You're supposed to stay in my chest! I exclaimed as I tried to stuff my heart back into my chest, to no avail. My fingers just passed through it as if it wasn't even there. Sorry, I know I'm probably bothering you, but my heart jumped out of my chest when I saw you, I said with a nervous wink. An inscrutable stare was all I got in return. Well, I have to go now. I hope you have fun doing whatever you're doing. Bye! I yelled as I waved to the dummy in the distance. As I left the dummy to continue my journey through, my heart slurped back into my chest. Why did my heart pop out of my chest in the first place? Some sort of rare disease? Involuntary cardiac ejection? Was that a thing?
Involuntary cardiac injection. I'm gonna put that on my stack.
Why was it even green? Well, I had never actually seen a heart before. I was pretty sure they weren't supposed to be green. They were supposed to be red. The shape, too. It looked like a heart that would be drawn on a Valentine's Day card. Cartoony, not at all realistic. As I was contemplating how detrimental having my heart removed from my body would be, I turned the corner and immediately met hip to face with a monstrously large pale frog. Well, monstrously large compared to other frogs I had encountered on the surface. My heart jumped out of my chest, literally and figuratively. We looked at each other. It hopped towards me, and again. A third time. The frog launched itself, feet splayed out, prepared to tackle me. I jumped to the side and slid across the disgustingly pink ground. I quickly got back on my feet and faced the frog again. Hey, can't you, can't we talk this out? I exclaimed as I raised my hands above my head in peace. The dastardly amphibian stopped and looked at me dead in the eyes. Ribbit, ribbit, the white frog croaked. Wow, that worked! Nice! What would you like to talk about? I let myself relax, and... Nope, it was trying to eat my heart. The frog was flicking its tongue every which way, trying to eat my heart, as if it was just a fly to nab out of the air. I assure you, while my heart may look appetizing, it is very sour and tastes like bitter limes, I pleaded, with my hands still raised above my head as I dived again to avoid another flying tackle. Death by frog. In the history of mankind, I was quite certain that no one had ever had that thought cross their mind. What?
What about the plagues in Egypt?
They didn't die
What
by
if
the
you choke on
frogs.
a
I bet
frog?
they had the thought of it if they
What
were
if you-
piling up in their...
What if
They
you
just-
choke on frog?
They just stank.
What if you try to eat frog and then you choke on it and die?
I don't know. Never mind.
I was quite certain that no one had ever had that thought cross their mind. I don't know how to deal with giant frogs. School was supposed to prepare me for the future, right?
Right. Yeah, that's how school is supposed to work.
School most certainly had not prepared me for this. Maybe it would stop attacking me if I said nice things about it? I've done dumber things, so it wouldn't hurt to try. You look absolutely riveting today, I managed to say before its tongue lashed out where I was formerly. Ribbit? The frog's blush was absolutely adorable, just a tinge of pink on the cheeks of their otherwise milky white face. Yeah, you heard me right. You look awesome today.
Ribbit.
It stumbled away during its next hop and face planted, sliding across the floor on its face, grinding to a halt some distance away.
Ow.
Do you need any help? I kneeled and offered with my hand outstretched.
Ribbit.
In its embarrassment, the frog dropped 2 shiny gold coins and hopped away as fast as it could. Well, goodbye then, I called out with my hands cupped around my mouth. Picking up the coins that the frog had dropped, I inspected the crest on it. It had the same winged orb that I had seen on the doors I had passed through. Was that the symbol of some sort of royal crest or something? Why did the monster even drop coins in the first place? Was it an accident, dropping them as it ran away? Or perhaps an apology for trying to eat my heart? Or payment for the haphazard compliments? Whatever the reason was, I wasn't going to leave the coins there. At least I could put something interesting on my future resume. I defeated a giant mutant frog with nothing but compliments. That would certainly get me hired for any job I wanted. I continued onward, feeling better about my abilities to take on wherever I was with my fragile, fleshy body. So with a skip in my step, I pranced down the hall until I came to a plaque in the middle of the hallway, which read, "The Western Room is the Eastern Room's blueprint." I kept going east to find out what was next, and was met with rows and rows of gleaming silver spikes, surrounded by water on both sides.
Swim across the water.
Going forward was the only way I could go if I wanted to get out of this place. I backtracked to the Western Room, which I had previously ignored, and took note of the distinctively paler pink paint on the ground that depicted a winding path amidst a sea of purple. Okay, I could do this. If every 2x2 tile was a unit, I would have to walk 2 right, 1 up, 1.5 right, 1 down, 3.5 right, 1 up, and keep going right to get to the other side. Yeah, I could do
I
this.
think that sounds about right.
I strolled back to the spike-filled room and immediately lost all faith in myself. What was the pattern again? 1 right, 1 up, 2 right, 1 down,
1.5
3
down.
2 right, 1 up, and then all I have to do is keep going right.
No.
Right? I muttered to myself.
Messed up the 1.5 and the 3.5.
With renewed, unlimited faith in myself, I was prepared to continue onwards, very much ignoring the very real possibility of impaling myself on a spike. I was not going to imagine a hole in my foot and screaming in pain as I died alone, screaming for help, for anyone to save me. I was totally not imagining something like that happening.
Hey, there's an easy way to brute force this. You just move your foot around until it's actually not spikes,
Yeah,
and then you
but-
step there.
I mean, in the game, you can't step anywhere else.
And they don't even,
I know, they don't
B
even
here
know
doesn't
you do
even
it.
know that that's how it works, I guess. I decided there was no reason to be extra careful, and went back to the Western Room and took note of the directions again. 1 right, 1 down, and then continue. Okay, I could do this. I returned to the room filled with spikes as far as I could see, and was confident that this time I would succeed, and did the only sensible thing. I rolled up my jeans and waded into the moat surrounding the spikes.
I told you!
There was a fine line between bravery and pure stupidity. In this case, doing this puzzle the normal way fell into the latter category. There was no way I was going anywhere near those pointy metal death skewers. The clear blue water was as high as my waist. I trudged along, ignoring how wet my clothes were getting. I did not regret this one bit. If it took getting my clothes soaked to prevent the possibility of getting a brand new goopy crimson hole in my foot, I was not going to look back. I kept trucking along through the shallow water and clambered back onto the solid ground when I reached the other end of the room without issue. I felt absolutely miserable, but there was not a single hole in my foot, which would have made me a lot more miserable than I was now. The next room was so incredibly exciting. It was a long hallway that stretched out as far as the eye could see and absolutely nothing else. The ground was pink, the bricks were pink, everything was pink. I had some harsh words for whoever designed this place. With only the vines creeping along the walls to break the monotony of the room, I plodded through the room, leaving puddles of water in my wake. The room did just seem to keep going on and on and on. There was a large pillar at the end of the hallway, but there didn't seem to be anything special about it, other than existing as part of some sort of strange underground civilization. The next room, and once again came hip to face with a giant white frog. "What are you doing, Toad, Mr. or Miss Frog?" I winked at the frog, while finger-gunning them. "Ribbit, ribbit, ribbit." I see, that sounds fascinating. Well, I must go now. Friendships await me.
Your heart.
I wish you a wonderful rest of your day." "Oh," I declared, and then bid them adieu. I mean, I guess some of the frogs, don't. You know, the ones that are giving you tutorials don't trigger a fight. Continuing onwards, I passed by more piles of ruby red leaves bunched up into little square piles. A perplexing sight when only plants nearby were the distinctively green vines growing out of the crumbling walls. Things just didn't spontaneously materialize out of thin air, but hey, I didn't know giant frogs existed. Were red piles of leaves where I was going to draw the line? Looking at the piles of red leaves, the urge to frolic became too much to handle, and I gave in to my indulgent desires and jumped in. As I lay down in the now noticeably soggier leaves, the pile to my right shivered, and two antennas emerged from the foliage. My newfound condition once again revealed itself as my heart popped out of my chest. Why was my heart green again? Reaching out a finger, I pushed some leaves away to be greeted by a cowering moth? It was curled up into a ball with fragile paper-like wings enveloping itself, attempting to go unnoticed by the rest of the world. Like frogs, it was huge compared to their counterparts above ground. "I can't handle this." "Don't worry! Beaming Bee is here to help," I proclaimed to the cowering creature. But by the time I had finished my sentence, it had already fluttered away. Continuing onwards, I noticed that the middle of the floor was breaking apart. A web of cracks here, a web of cracks there. I jumped over them, of course. I'd already fallen into one hole today, and look how that turned out. Coming into another empty room, I immediately noticed the web of lines etched into the ground, as if someone had had a particularly fierce grudge on a glass pane and just so happened to have a hammer at hand. Cracked flooring as far as the eye could see. Getting down on all fours, I slapped the ground. Crack! Well, that tile was not structurally sound. How about this one? Crack! Nope, not that one either. Maybe this one? A second slap to be sure. I inched forward. A slow and nerve-wracking process, the consequences of falling probably ranged from bad to splat. Repeating this...
Scale.
How did you know there was a cavern underneath it, though? Why doesn't it just,
Because the things fell.
I don't know. Repeating this simple, safe, and incredibly complex process, I was able to get to the other side in one whole piece.
Is that an actual thing, or do you just fall down?
You just fall down and look at the pattern down below, and then go back up and do the pattern.
Right. But I was able to get to the other side in one whole piece, all my limbs happily connected to my torso. Finally done with the stressful process, I entered the next room, filled with joyous, smooth rock. Still garishly pink, but at least it looked solid. A moat stretched across the middle of the room, with the only way forward being a bridge, with metal spikes on it. Why? The room also had 3 rocks and 3 pressure plates. It couldn't be that easy, right? Was it even a puzzle at this point? Even a child could have solved it. 3 rocks, 3 pressure plates, 1 + 1 = 2.
There's also lions on the floor.
There's also lions on the floor?
Lions.
Wow, lions. Pushing 2 rocks onto their respective pressure plates, then pushing on the 3rd one. Whoa there, partner! Who said you could push me around? Oh, sorry, sir. Where are you? I apologized as I looked around for the source of the rumbling southern voice. Down here, darling. I looked down and saw a rock. Hi, is that you, Mr. Rock? You betcha, sugar. Never seen a talking rock before? You been living under a rock? Can you tell me where we are? I'm new around here. Well, if you ain't from the ruins and you must have come from past the gate, how's everything going out there? Well, you know, same old, I said, with all the confidence of a toddler on a bicycle. Well, this place is a piece of history, ain't it? Trapped behind the barrier, wary of humanity coming to take a second crack on the monster population, we monsters retreated far, far into the earth until we reached the cavern's end. Our new home, which the king named Home. It's a fine name, if you ask me.
She's a monster?
Hmm?
Shouldn't she already know that if she's a monster?
Yeah, but
Then again, the monsters are all telling you that, and presumably... But then again,
Maybe he thinks
everybody
that she's
tells-
never been to the ruins, so he's sort of
Yeah.
telling her why they're there at the end of the...
Everybody tells you stuff like that, and I don't know if everybody knows you're a human.
Well, you know,
So, okay.
plot points.
So we're...
It's a fine name, if you ask me. As good as any other. And that's the short of it. Your ma and pa really skimped on your history lessons, didn't they? Don't blame them, though. It ain't something people like bringing up. Most people don't even remember the war nowadays. Even I wasn't around back then. My great... well, I have to go now. Could you let me through? So you're asking me to move over? Yep, I really need to go now, I chirped. Okay, just for you, Pumpkin, he said as he slid across the floor, and then stopped, miles before the pressure plate. I mean, onto the pressure plate right there? You're giving me a real workout here, he grumbled as he slid onto the pressure plate, and the spikes ahead receded into the walkway. Bidding Mr. Rock goodbye, I approached the spikes. The spikes had popped back up. Glancing at the southern rock in question, I decided that I was done with his antics. So with a running start, I ignored the bridge and spikes in their entirety and hopped over the moat and continued along my way.
You done that earlier.
They really should have put the spikes there instead of water. Some poor frog architect probably got their salary docked after their amphibious boss pointed out the fatal flaw called people with legs. Was that what this place was? A prison for monsters? If their existence was reduced to make-believe stories about imaginary creatures and a legend about a cursed mountain, then it would have had to have been a really, really long time ago. Why was magic nothing but a fantasy? What had caused a war between humans and monsters in the past? How big was the underground? Resting my head on the wall, I sighed to myself. What had I gotten myself into? And that is the end of Chapter 2.
Keep reading.
But it is 9:30 now.
So,
Read.
What is Chapter 3?
Read it, and we'll find out.
Well, do you want
7, page
do you want Chapter 3 or do you
Yes.
want to do it another time?
Chapter 3, go.
Strolling past another pointless hallway, I began to question the sanity of the architecture. Hallway after hallway, room after room, no purpose to them except to be farther from the entrance, to put themselves between... to put distance between themselves and the entrance, like they were running from something. The puzzles, a deterrent, diversion, A method to prevent intruders from drawing near.
Dude, they just think of the definition of diversion, or...
Oh. That was what this place was made for, wasn't it? Security. Entering the next room, my eyes were drawn to the white blob in the middle of the room. More of a bed sheet, really. With 2 black dots next to each other and a droopy frown. Was this a ghost? Those low-effort Halloween costumes were more accurate than I'd given them credit for. It was just lying there, doing nothing. I couldn't even get past the ghost.
Jump over it!
The whole room was shaped like an hourglass with the ghost smack dab in the middle.
Jump over. If you can jump over the entire moat that is in the spikes room.
I inched forward. Maybe I could jump over it. Zzz.
Or
Zzz.
or jump over it if it's like an hourglass.
Zzz.
If it's like an hourglass, then you should be able to stick
Were they pretending to be asleep?
If it's an hourglass, then you should be able to stick your feet on the walls, and then you can jump over it.
Zzz. Well, I mean, I don't know. Zzz. Were they pretending to be asleep? Hello there. Are you okay? I questioned the spooky specter. You're just saying zzz. Sleeping people don't, say things. They just lie there. So I guess you're halfway there. Good for you. The living sheets with eyes rose into the air, my heart similarly rising from my chest, the corner of their frown lifting a little. And then they started crying. Oh no, crying. Compliments or puns. What should I use to cheer them up? As I was contemplating the superiority of puns, one of the milky tears landed on my skin and started sizzling. Ow! 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 Why are your tears burning me? Ow! Why is everything here so open? There's nowhere for me to hide! Please stop crying! You're burning me! Duck! Dive! Dodge! Ow! 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 That didn't work! I've never been able to dodge rain before! I wish I had an umbrella! A nice green one, maybe! That sounds nice! Then I had a nice green umbrella in my hands, with a nice curved handle, a shaft leading up to 10 delicate ribs covered by a pleasant translucent lime film. This wasn't here before. My similarly lime heart thrummed in front of my chest, and I realized what I was. A green lantern. The umbrella sheltered me from the...
You were talking about that.
The umbrella sheltered me from the acid tears, pitter-patters falling on it to no avail. I liked my magic umbrella. Turning back to the ghost under the safety of my new umbrella, I triumphantly declared, "Want to hear a knock-knock joke?" Okay. "Knock-knock!" I chirped as I pretended to knock on a door in front of me. "Who's there?" "Boo!" "Boo-hoo?" "Well, I'm not going to tell you the joke if you keep crying," I teased with a smirk.
That's not...
I have a lot of puns I'm just dying to tell you, but they're too much of an emotional roller coaster, I said with a wink and grin, a glimmer of grimace from my second pun.
I don't see how that's a pun.
Let me try. The tears that had been falling from their eyes suddenly inverted and gathered above the specter's head, coalescing into a hat? I call it Dapper Look, they confessed as they eagerly awaited my response. Do you like it? Of course I do! You turned your magical acid tears into a hat! That's amazing! You look absolutely fabulous! Oh. 2 tears fell from their face as their frown eased just the slightest. I usually come to the ruins because there's nobody around, but today I met somebody nice. They rambled as they bobbed in the air. Oh, I'm rambling again. I'll get out of your way. I was too enthralled by their magical hat and the equally magical umbrella I was still holding to respond as they faded away, opening a path ahead. Empty hand, green umbrella. It just popped into existence. It had the same shade as the heart that popped out of my chest whenever I encountered a monster, so it was probably safe to assume that the two were related. I had a distinct memory of gracefully flailing around trying to avoid the acid rain, and then pop, there it was. If the green construct really was tied to my heart thingy in some way, maybe I could make it appear and disappear if I vaguely waved my hand over it like a magician. With a magical wave of the hand, and in true Green Lantern fashion, the umbrella poofed into non-existence, leaving nothing behind. I waved. Pop! And then again, poof! Well, I guess it wasn't just a fluke. I did have some sort of magical power. Could I make things other than umbrellas? While being able to pull an umbrella out of my heart was incredible, it would be pretty lame if that was all I could do. I could already hear the theme song in my head. Umbrella girl, she appears with a twirl, she protects you from tears and lifts you up with cheers. It sounded nice and all, but it was kind of lame if you thought about it. What else would I be able to make? Maybe a sword? With a sweep of my hands, I attempted to will a sword into existence. Nothing happened. Maybe another wave? Nope. Was this my fate? Was I doomed to be Umbrella Girl? Summoner of umbrellas? Well, better than nothing. Feeling a bit lightheaded for some reason, I left the room and continued forward. My viridescent heart zoomed back into my chest like a puppy running back to its mother. The next room branched into two separate rooms. The one straight ahead appeared to be a tad darker than the other rooms around, with spider webs strung every which way around the entrance. Clicks and clacks, skittering noises barely audible crawling out of the room. I was not going in there. Entering that room would almost be as bad as splitting up in the woods. My mind and I were in agreement.
This person is smart.
I was not going in there. I was going to go to the left. It was another hallway. Hallway after hallway. Puzzle after puzzle. The monsters were desperate, weren't they? Trying anything, to get away from the humans. Putting distance between the entrance and their homes so that they would have time to evacuate if anything ever happened, to get away from the monsters. The monsters didn't seem to realize I was a human, though, even though they continued to attack me with magical pellets that would cut and sting whenever I wasn't able to get out of the way in time. They never seemed scared when they saw me and started peppering me with magic of all shapes and sizes. It didn't feel like an attack. It was more natural than that. Like it was just something they would do all the time. Like waving hello to an acquaintance on the other side of the room. Something done in passing, like a greeting. Maybe that was what magic was to them. How long had they all been down here to not recognize the race that had terrorized them and forced them underground? I wished I could do something to help, but it was just me. 17-year-old B. More hugs than brains or brawn.
I thought she was like 12.
Oh, 17.
Wow.
Up ahead, the omnipresent red leaves were arranged in the shape of an arrow. Following the arrow would be most likely an awfully stupid thing to do. But what else was I supposed to do? Go back to the giant hole, flap my arms, and fly out? Unless my arms had magically turned into wings while I wasn't paying attention. That scenario was unlikely, to say the least. In front of me was a tree, the first tree that I had seen since falling down here. There weren't any leaves on it, but it was surrounded by the same red leaves that were scattered everywhere throughout the ruins. Oh, joy!
Just wheelbarrowing leaves to make all the puzzles.
Maybe.
So?
Oh, joy, a tree, the hamster in my brain drawled. How amazing! Even though it was just a tree, It meant that someone spent the time moving the leaves from this place to all those other places where I had seen leaves. Behind the tree sat a purple brick house. It didn't feel inviting, but it also didn't feel ominous. It just sat there, cracks covering the walls, but it appeared to be lived in and in surprisingly good condition, if it was as old as I thought it
How
was.
does that work? If it's in surprisingly good condition, but there's cracks running along
For
the
how
wall.
old she thinks it is.
Yeah. I approached the door and knocked. Toriel sat on her sofa beside her roaring fireplace, the glow of the lights above illuminating the fading pages she held. 72 Uses for Snails. She had already read this particular book countless times, the contents of the next page vividly imprinted in her mind, but she was reading it anyways. She hoped that one day she would be able to sit in a colorful classroom, perhaps filled to the brim with little monsters and humans, eyes aglow with awe at the world around them. Perhaps a distant and naive dream, but she had everything prepared. English, math, science, art,
Snails.
foreign languages, and history. Though perhaps some review of human history would be needed with how much time had passed. A dream that would never be fulfilled. For if monsters and humans were to unite, the barrier must first be broken. 6 children. She had allowed 6 innocent children to leave the ruins. If she allowed one more to pass, the barrier would be broken, and the monsters would be freed. Asgore would absorb the 7 souls, becoming a true monster. He had allowed those children to be slaughtered. Would the rest of humanity be any different? If he would allow 6 children to die by his hands, what more was the rest of humanity? She would not allow that to happen. Putting the book back into the creaking shelf, she glanced at the clock. 3 o'clock, time to visit the golden flowers, where they had buried her, under their favorite flowers. It had been years since the last human had fallen into the underground. She still remembered him, the shy little boy with a purple soul, bringing his small, worn notebook everywhere they went, always curious about the different monsters, meticulously taking little notes in the few pages left, erasing and rewriting to make sure they were perfect. So very proud to show her their efforts, beaming with pride whenever she praised them for effort and perseverance. Then he learned about what was past the gate. More monsters to learn about, he cheered. Face so full of joy and excitement that she just couldn't. He promised that he would return to show her the notes he had taken on all the new monsters he had met. He never returned. They never did. She knew what would happen to them if they left. They would die, like ones before them, and still she let them leave. What a coward she was! Knock, knock. A visitor? How unusual. She walked up and opened the door. Before her stood Hello, miss? Or mister? I can't really tell. I haven't met that many anthropomorphic goats. You're the first, actually. You look like an 8-foot-tall, fluffy grandma, so I hope I got that right. My name is Beatrice, but I prefer to go by Bee. I fell down here a little bit ago. Wonderful little place you have here. Very homey. If I'm bothering you, I'll leave immediately. No, please come in, dear. She welcomed as she stood aside to let them in. The child beamed at them and stepped in. A human?
There's already been 6 people.
So this is a non-frisk.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. The child beamed at them and stepped in. A human? Here? She certainly hadn't expected a human to appear at her front door. They appeared to be a teenager with a round face and shoulder-length dark brown hair, light brown eyes on their soft features staring back at her, confusion becoming increasingly evident. They were waving their small little hands in front of her face. Why were they doing that? Hello? Earth to Fluffy Grandma! They chirped, with their arms still waving about. Oh! Forgive me for forgetting to introduce myself. I am Toriel, caretaker of the ruins, she said. Well, I am Bee, caretaker of the umbrellas, she said as she waved her hand with a flourish, and immediately appeared confused, as if she expected something to happen. Her clothes were ripped and filled with holes and cuts, small burns littering her arms. Still, a bright smile was on her tired face. She had failed another child. She should have checked the hole earlier. A child had to go through all those traps and monsters, somewhere dangerous with no one on their side. If she had just gone a little bit earlier instead of wallowing in her own self-pity. Hug! 2 arms wrapped around her torso, a small face full of worry looking up at her. My child, what are you doing? Toriel asked as the child's face pressed into her chest. Well, you look sad, and hugs always make people feel better. Even if I don't know why you're sad, I can still do this, Bee responded as she hugged harder. It was true. She did feel happier. Happier than she had been in a long time. But such a kind child would never survive the underground. They never did. That is the end of chapter 3!
Next chapter.
No, we can't. Now it's 9:50.
48.
Nope. My computer says 9:50, and it is
50.
synchronized to the atomic national military clock somewhere.
It's not in the military clock.
Say.
Well, it is
Military
synchronized
clock
somewhere.
Would be like 21 o'clock or something.
21, 40, no.
50. 50 is the important number
I
here.
forgot that. Now it's 51.
It's only
at
8:50,
least.
huh?
No, it's still 50.
8:50.
Oh, really?
Totally.
9:50.
8:50.
Anyway, so that is chapter 3 out of 12. This story is still being written. The last chapter, yeah, it's not done. The last chapter came out.
I don't know if she dies.
That is true. Or if the story turns bad, and everything goes horribly, horribly wrong.
So what were you saying? When is the last chapter in?
2 days ago.
Oh, okay.
Where does the last chapter
And
take
when
place
was
in
the
location
second
in
to
the
last
underground?
chapter written?
I don't know that it tells me that. I think they come out roughly every couple of weeks, but I'm not entirely sure.
Where?
Because I just found it myself.
Okay.
Daddy.
Yeah.
Where in location in the underground does the most recent chapter take place?
With Toriel
What?
in the ruins, but it's kind of a what would you call it? Like meanwhile sort of chapter. So
Ooh.
there's other things happening
Ooh, I wonder
elsewhere.
what the other things are.
Well, in the next 9 chapters, perhaps we'll learn.
The Beatrice has facts.
Has what?
Facts.
Facts?
Like being smart, like jumping over the moat and stuff. Like
Oh, yeah.
I thought you were gonna say she has facts.
What?
I thought you said like
No.
facts.
Yeah,
Like
facts,
things
like
about-
with the hugs.
That's
a thing.
that's not a... Facts
Definitely
are like
a thing.
72 uses for snails. Those are facts. She has skills or...
Yeah.
You just start a
Hugging
thing where you
skills.
randomly just hug and then charge somebody random.
Well, I guess if you're a green
Google
soul,
hot
maybe
dog
you do
style.
that. All right, hot dog style. What does it mean?
Is
What's,
this still recording?
Yes, I mean, for
People
now.
in this recording are gonna want to know just as much as we do. Although they probably already Googled it.
What would we call this? Hot dog
Just
Just
Google hot
Google
dog.
hot
Style.
dog style.
pattern. Well, I found a bunch of hot dog vector art. It's really nice.
Wow.
Let me see.
Helpful.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, well, this is...
Just do minus
It's
vector
clearly-
on Google, and it might help.
Don't
I
look
mean,
up pattern.
Minus hot dog style pillowcase pattern.
Minus vector.
I don't think this
Hot
is
dog
getting
style
us...
probably just means help.
There's hot dog bun cutouts.
Hot dog style pressure plate patterns.
Oh man.
If this works, that would be awesome.
Just do hot dog style.
All right, all I got were gourmet hot dogs. All right,
Look, hot dog style with nothing else.
Look, we're obviously just not.
Yeah, just Google hot dog
We're
style.
not smart enough to
Google
understand.
hot dog style.
Oh, no, no.
But
Uh,
if you're Googling
It's probably
other
like
things-
some type of hip hop. Here he comes with his fresh beats in hot dog style. All right.
hot dog
Is
menus.
that hot dog style? I found Michigan style hot dogs. The ultimate guide to every hot dog. I'm actually getting a little hungry looking at this. All right, well, I'm afraid
You have
this
to
does
ask
not.
the person.
This does not explain to us
Right,
what hot dog style means.
Write a comment
But
on the
hopefully-
person's story and ask what hot dog style means.
I think, wow, it's obviously something we're just too uninformed about. Anyway, that was our story.
Voluntary
I hope you
cardiac
enjoyed it.
injection.
Yes.
I like Earth the Fluffy
That's
Grandma.
my favorite.
Or sudden
very
hug.
nice.
Eat your heart.
Oh yeah, the frog trying to eat your heart. Yeah.
Oh, no, it's totally good.
And
Oh,
to-
no, wait, it's trying to eat my heart.
And just pulling an umbrella out of your heart.
This story I can't quite tell how fan fiction works. It may have started August 19th. And yeah, that would be really recent. Maybe a bunch of chapters got put in place quick. I don't know. I don't know how LittleSquib0 does their releasing.
Can you, like, subscribe to it or something?
I do.
Oh, that works.
So I am informed when there are updates.
Right.
Anyway, so we will read more of this perhaps later.
You should write a comment and ask what hot dog style means.
It's probably just long lies or something.
But
It probably is
like
just
2 rows of 3 instead of 3 rows of 2.
yes.
See, but
That's probably as much as it is.
No, but see, you would think that
No, we
would
just
be
don't.
like if you're facing the plates, then you would have 2 and 2 and 2. Like,
Maybe each row looks like a hot dog.
Maybe the pressure plates are hot dogs.
it's
Yes,
sideways.
that's what
not
it is.
Longwise, so it doesn't even work.
Okay, well, the author is probably at this point regretting writing those 2 words because it has derailed the entire story, which I hope you liked.
Yes.
yeah, it was
yes.
good.
All right,
Keep writing it and yes, that.
all right. Goodbye.
Wait, are they listening to this?
I don't know. Probably not at this point.
Oh, okay.